bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome, everyone, to a new edition of USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. A happy Tuesday, wherever you might be. If you missed last week's show, plenty of talk about Division I sanctioning and plenty of the rules and legislature. And this is all about soccer, baby. We are back and just about 2 weeks away from the beginning of the USL Championship campaign. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr, Emmett McConnell's at the controls as ever. Dev, happy Tuesday to you, and boy, what a time to be alive.
Can I tell you, speaking of all about soccer, how excited I am to talk about these grip socks that I got from Cardinal Health to help me through my rehab process? Absolutely ridiculous in terms of comfort, perfect stability as I slide along the floor. You know, these little rascals are chasing me back around. It reminds me of my playing days, formidable at times, and the agility that I was capable of. Though no longer present in today's life, the socks give me hope. All football all the time here on USL All Access.
Can you see your ankles in the shoes when you wear these socks?
Okay, excellent question. So my first game was on the weekend. I traveled Friday. On Wednesday, it wasn't the first time I left the house, but it was the first time I left the house with a shoe on without unlacing it. I was actually able to put a shoe on myself. Didn't tie it. Doctor wasn't happy about that, but you know what? I got a shoe on. I didn't have to walk around in a sock. These are all wins, Mike. Some of the kids call them dubs or W's.
I asked if I could see your ankles.
I know, and I'm telling you that I got a shoe on. The answer is yes. I'm giving you the long-winded answer that yes. I listen, for Christmas, sorry, my birthday, I got a gift card. I bought myself a pair of shoes. It made me feel really bad about myself that I couldn't put said shoes on. But now I can. God. And now I have the freshest cereal.
Okay. Dev, we've got a great guest on today, don't we?
Yeah. You know, it's I don't want to say it's been a long time coming. Maybe that is the right way to phrase it. But, you know, we were fortunate last year with the Las Vegas Lights organization. Jose Bautista obviously took over as the principal owner, brought in Dennis Sanchez. And then the idea was, okay, well, where is the rest of the vision going to come from? Especially certainly that they've departed ways. Dennis Sanchez, of course, going to New Mexico United. A little bit more on that as we preview the Western Conference. But Neglia, sporting director, front office guru, who really helped put that together last year with Dennis Sanchez, what the path continues forth, what it looks like, what's going to be the big difference in year two for this about phase for a Lights organization that absolutely lit it up in the Western Conference, finishing top four. Can't wait to pick his brain.
No doubt. So the Las Vegas Lights sporting director joining us later. Dev, let's jump right into the front office side of things as we get started. We're going to preview the entire Western Conference. We're going to do it alphabetically as prescribed by Wikipedia. Tulsa is coming last. I know
always
the FC.
A disclaimer.
I know the FC comes first. Tulsa is going last because T is anywho. Dev, Chris Richards is bought into the Birmingham Legion ownership group. Joins Michael Parkhurst at Rhode Island. Ozzy Alonso is involved in the ownership at Spokane. Tyler Adams with Westchester. Tim Weah, born in Brooklyn, getting a piece of Brooklyn. Ronaldinho, the Ronaldinho, is involved at Greenville. Exciting, right? I mean, look, if you're Chris Richards, he's been to games over the last few years. We've highlighted that on TV when he's been in town. Exciting for him to have a chance to give back to that Birmingham region, which very quietly has started becoming a bit of a mill for pretty good players.
Yeah, Birmingham born and bred, FC Dallas product that went to Bayern, now employing his trade at Crystal Palace, some of that EPL money making its way back to the USL Championship. A couple of different looks for me. Number one, certainly the most important thing, Mike, it's more exposure. More exposure for all of those players and for the club. At a time with the news that came out about the idea of Division I taking place in 2027, we see a lot of those pipe dreams, as people are calling them online, not be the case whatsoever. It's truly picking up traction and starting to come to fruition. Also, I think it's interesting to me to see not just ownership by players, but the age that we're starting to get out of these guys, where we're not looking at guys that are in their 50s and 60s, even their late 40s. We're getting players that are in their 30s. Of course, Chris Richards, just 24 years of age, investing for a reason. That reason isn't just because Division I is coming. That reason is because the infrastructure is there. There is a return, and there's such a loyal fan base, certainly when it comes to the case of the Birmingham Legion.
Yeah. It says you have a fun question.
So I sort of had a fun question here. So
did I blow it?
No, you didn't buy it. I basically, the way I wanted to phrase it, we've played this idea in the past, but I wanted to phrase it differently. My fun question is to you, Mike. These players, you brought up Tyler Adams, Tim Weah. We just talked about Chris Richards. If you were to buy into a League One or League Two team, not because of location, but because of your affection for the current fan base, or some sort of cultural phenom that we've seen in the past, Des Moines in their Open Cup run, certainly their history is much more storied than it was just in 2024 with Sasha Kleshin going to help them out. I'm just kind of curious, what group would you buy?
I appreciate what Forward Madison's done.
Okay.
And as
You're
someone
going Flamingo.
As someone who just vacationed with flamingos, true story, I have no interest in buying a piece of that team. Too gimmicky.
Oh, okay.
Too gimmicky.
So it wouldn't be Forward. You love them,
but hilariously, maybe Union Omaha, maybe Spokane.
Look at you.
But you mentioned Des Moines. I love a good League Two club.
Yeah. Same. Yeah, it's hard to shy away from them. I think if I was to go League Two, it'd probably be Des Moines. They've just been around forever, man. And to know so many different players that have come through that organization, not just at the League Two level, but certainly guys that have progressed to League One, players that have gone to the championship. You go way back when, guys that were making their way into MLS, and just such a plethora of alumni that have come through there. I wouldn't go Omaha, by the way, believe it or not.
Wow.
I wouldn't.
Spurning his hometown. Reading? Going Pennsylvania boys?
I like the Reading boys. Yeah, I think I would probably have to buy something new in a new market.
Okay.
I know I said pre-existing, which is the problem. I'll stick with Des Moines and we'll leave it there. If I was to own a League One team, I'd start my own in a new city.
Okay. Do you know what city?
I have an idea, but I'm not going to say it out loud because I got plans.
Okay, love it. With the Mr. Moneybag, Mr. Monopoly, Devon Kerr, Mike Watts, USL All Access. All right, congrats, Chris Richards. You're rich. Brad Estes is making moves. He is the new Switchbacks FC club president. This all comes at a time of, I don't want to say seismic change, but it's change that's been coming in Colorado Springs here for a minute. So if you know Brad, been around Louisville City, racing Louisville, look, you and I have gotten to know Brad quite well over the years. He's a really good, decent man who did a lot of great things running that club in the championship. Ownership is the other side of the Colorado Springs thing, and we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when we first came back off hiatus. The Widener family now owns it in its entirety. They bought out the Reagans. Colorado Springs Switchbacks does not exist without the Reagan family. So it's not a dig when I say this. But the Wideners are one with the long-term ambition and vision. And in that sense, Brad Estes is a very obvious next step in continuing toward that.
Again, out of respect to the Reagans, like you said, it was part of that kind of old guard, if you will, when it came to ownership groups.
It's an evolution.
And if you hear anything when it comes to the new faces, pre-existing teams or not, that are coming in to U.S. soccer, certainly in the conversation for USL Championship, it's about ambition and the vetting process a little bit different. And I think that's everything. Is the Wideners
They can
alliteration.
splash
Here
a
we
little
go. They
bit
want to
more.
win, right? Like
Yeah.
they're willing to spend a little bit more. They're willing to invest differently than what we saw years ago. I mean, we're not that far off, Mike, and we've referenced it on this show before, where friend of the show, Steve Tritchew, then manager, would tell us stories about not being able to field a team because they didn't have enough on a first team roster. They couldn't get their hands on a certain amount of academy players because they were supposed to be in a tournament somewhere else, and they couldn't get players loaned from the Colorado Rapids. And putting together, literally on game day, a makeshift bench just to get 3 guys there so that they could be able to go out and play a game. That is just a couple of years ago. And for everybody that lived under the rock in 2024, Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC won the USL Championship title. Just saying.
Indeed.
So, look, and it's not just spending money. They're very smart about it too, right? Like Stevie Hogan in the front office, obviously had been on the sideline a little bit. Brendan Burke prior, James Chambo, Alan McCann. They've done such a good job from top to bottom. And the Wideners are the reason for that. Brad Estes will only add to it. He was part of the archetype that put Louisville City on the map. Plain and simple. The path to glory that we've seen that is the standard bearer for all the USL Championship exists in part because of Brad Estes and everything that he did for that club.
Yep. All right, so congrats to Brad on the new gig. Congrats to Colorado Springs on the new money. Let's chat a little bit about some player movement here. We are going to chat about the entirety of the Western Conference from the comforts of our layers here on USL All Access in a moment. Orange County, couple moves. Nico Benalcazar comes in, former Cincinnati 2 player. He was at Wake Forest. Tom Brewitt, who played largely center back, but some holding mid at Hartford, has made his way back to the league, will join Orange County. I'm actually kind of excited to see Tom Brewitt at Orange County, and I think they actually needed that piece.
I think it's a better fit for him, number one. And I think the thing with Nico Benalcazar coming in, I've always been a big fan of his. You know, as his career has gone on, leaving Wake Forest with Cincinnati and with NYCFC, he got caught in this gray area of 2 things, one of which isn't the worst asset to have in your back pocket, and that's being so multifunctional as a player. That's a midfielder by trade that has learned to play the center back role and has done very well for himself. But 22 and 23 were interesting years for him. That gray area that I talk about so frequently with players, he was playing above a reserve squad, a 2-team level, however you want to look at it in MLS organization eyes, but he wasn't playing at a high enough standard to get himself regularly into the first team, so he wasn't getting games. Had about 33 appearances spread out over 2 years. That's just not enough. And that's still a very young player that is capable of making a mark on an organization. He's 23, Mike.
Yep.
Like, he's 23 years of age. We've seen him as a professional for now what will be 4 separate seasons. This is one of those years where he's going to be given a lot of looks there to be in the starting role. He's got to take full advantage of that to continue to progress his career.
All right, a couple other moves to keep in mind. Abram Merrill coming in from Columbus to Colorado Springs, new goalkeeper, has played about 30 games in the championship previous. Atzes Diouf, who's a former All-League One player at Lexington, has been bought by Detroit City. El Paso's brought in Kofi Chumesi, who was previously at Rhode Island, was sort of a spot player for them last year. Bravo, who was at Crown Legacy in Portland too, moves on to Oakland. We'll chat about that. Las Vegas, Dev, couple of moves before we head to break. Yunus Budati, right? Energetic outside back, primarily known from his time in Hartford, makes the move. Here's the one that's going to raise an eyebrow or two. A former Juventus midfielder coming over, Dauda Peters. My brother actually had the same disease that he suffered from a few years ago. Feel free to jump in, but it's a heck of a story.
Yeah. So, and my friend of mine is a huge Juve fan, so I actually knew about this young man a couple of years ago when this took place. So, the Ghanaian-born Belgium, Dauda Peters, awesome player, by the way. What you're going to get out of him is an absolute destroyer in the midfield, ground coverage, tall, physical. His right foot, he can ping a ball with the best of them in this league from what I've seen in him in the past. Spraying it all over the field. 40, 50-yard balls right on a dime. it's something that with the departure of JC Ngannou, who had to go back for the Vancouver Whitecaps, it frees up more space within the midfield for a Las Vegas Lights team that already like to put the ball on the deck and play. That's the sporting side of it. So what he acquired, Mike, and you're familiar, it's called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And it's basically, I wrote this down because I want to give the medical term for it. It is an acute inflammatory polyneuropathy, autoimmune disease, that affects the nervous system. And for most people, his case as well, it starts from the ground up, takes over your legs, moves up your body. For him, it stopped right around his heart and lungs, paralyzed him from the waist down. Now, this occurred in 2021. By 17 months later, fully cleared. Now, this disease is fatal in about 2% of people. That's number one, which is crazy. There's an area of about 60 to 80% of patients that actually recover to full health. Within that percentage, near if any of them ever return to a professional athlete status. He got back there. He got back there in 17 months, actually walked for the first time on Christmas Day in 2022, about a year after the fact. I think that the story itself is just so important to so many people involved within the game. I'm the first one. I want to talk tactics. I want to break things down and get analytical. But to have a young man, and he's still in his mid-20s, I have a young man who's a Serie A player who has a second lease on life, yet alone the fact that he's continuing on as a professional footballer. I think it's an incredible testament to his willpower and character, and she'd be a lesson for anybody out there dealing with anything that mentally or physically is challenging you, that if you just believe and keep pushing forward, anything is possible. I can't wait to see him in action for the Lights.
Dev making my heart grow 3 sizes this day. All right, when we come back, we're going to start through the Western Conference. I mentioned we've got the sporting director from Las Vegas coming on. Gianleonardo Neglia is going to be with us later in the show. Back in a moment here on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We are back on USL All Access. Miss any part of the show, available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page in full color. It's also available on the SiriusXM app. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr. Let's get to work, Dev. Western Conference previews this week. We did the East last week, team by team, all 12, alphabetical order. Let's roll with Colorado Springs. Finished second in the West, got there on the last day. Hosted Oakland, Orange County, Las Vegas, Rhode Island in the playoffs. Obviously won them all, reigning champ. Ronaldo Damas is out. Jairo Henriquez are out. They both scored in the final. Delence Pierre, Cole Maroka, both out. Speedy Williams notably goes to Lexington. Handful of big names coming in. Isaiah Foster's back, was there as a really young player. Went to Cincinnati. He returns. Anthony Fontana, who is with this group in Philadelphia, is back. The coaching staff. Marco Micheletto comes in from New Mexico. Akeem Ward, outside back, well-known. Garvin Metusala, Levante Johnson, Marco Rios. What do you think about the switchbacks?
Certainly the biggest loss is going to be Speedy Williams, right? Speedy Williams, his control within the midfield, he's got such a calming demeanor about him. Lexington got themselves a good one. That's going to be massive shoes that they're going to have to replace. I like some of the guys they brought in, though. Marco Micheletto is someone who they could step in that will help fill some of that void. Anthony Fontana, coming back from the Netherlands and Vol, spent a couple of seasons overseas, including in Italy. That's the Philly contingency right there that you're seeing from the front office. Stevie Hogan again, James Chambo. I refuse to call him Chambers, by the way. I know that's the appropriate name, but Chambo it's just better that way. Yeah, let's be honest. And Alan McCann, they spent so much time in the Northeast. That's the recognition of young talent and the impact that he can make within the group. A guy that you can kind of play all over on that front line, primarily located centrally. But I like it. The Damas, Delence Pierre, Cole Maroka is a loss in the sense of talent, but he wasn't theirs to have anyway, as the crew had him on loan. Jairo Henriquez, I've always been a fan of his. I've always truly enjoyed what he brings to the game. There were some rumors that maybe he might not be back regardless of the title towards the end of last season. At least those were some of the things that were passed down to me. So still an extremely talented team that we know what the ceiling is. And now the pressure's on them to go and repeat.
Yep. El Paso Locomotive finished dead last year, 10 points out of the playoffs. Let's be honest, the rebuild really started when Wilmer Cabrera arrived on May 20th. Totally rebuilt the team during the summer window. Frank Lopez comes in, Memo Diaz, who was with him at RGV, Frank DeRoma, Alvaro Quesada comes in, Gabby Torres, Lucas Stauffer, Brandon Craig, Bolu Akinyoti, Joaquin Rivas had seen their minutes decline at the end of last year. I don't think there are any surprises here. It's RGV Part 2.
Yeah, to me, it's very clear about this team, given the conversations I had with some players last season. This is about the dressing room. It's not about talent. I see them as a just above the playoff line team in terms of talent, and now you have to find a way to cultivate that if you're Wilmer Cabrera. Some guys left for a reason. They didn't get along, and he needs to find a way to get them all on the same page. This team has the ability to make themselves a playoff squad. They just have to have the character, and we haven't seen that from an El Paso team in quite some time.
Yeah, and we never heard Wilmer Cabrera had big locker room issues at RGV.
No,
These just weren't his guys.
Exactly, and that's my thing. They weren't hit. I'm not exactly. I'm glad you cleared that up. It sounded like I was talking about the coach, and I wasn't. It wasn't his guys. There is, just like we talk about a profile of player on the field, that personality exists somewhere else, and a lot of times, Mike, in a different way off the field that can affect a locker room in a negative manner. And it felt like a lot of those personalities were clashing, which then spilled over in between the white lines and really diminished their performances.
All right, Viva Las Vegas finished fourth in the West, 50 points, 31-point turnaround, eliminated by Colorado Springs in the Western Conference Final. They got by Sacramento and Pens, got past the number 1 seed New Mexico. Look, out Corey Bennett goes to Kuwait, their leading scorer. Hafferty, Duty, you mentioned JC Ngondo earlier in the show. Solomon Asante, maybe not big statistical numbers, but clearly important to the group. Shaft Brewer comes in. Patrick Leal comes in from Revs 2. Humphrey from North Texas. Knight Pickering, I think, is really interesting. Nate Jones comes in. Jack Singer, bit of an aged rookie in this current era. You're going to talk to the sporting director later, so quick thought there, I guess.
Two big things for me. Number one, the continuation of the project of a team that now is going to have a target on its back. It doesn't matter if it's 1 year or not. I like the moves. The question is going to be, what does Antonio Nocerino bring? Again, we gave him a wash at Miami. This is a very different look. It's a different conference. It's a different team. The second part for me is, I'm not going out on the limb here right now. Everybody needs to pay attention to Valentin Noel. I told you about this kid coming in last year to the Las Vegas Lights and what he's capable of. I have him as one of my top 5 picks for a player that could go and win the MVP this year. He has that type of quality within his game to take over at a moment's notice that he should definitely be in that conversation come the end of 2025.
All right. Lexington makes the move up from League One. They missed the playoffs, 9th place each of the last 2 years. They were only out by 3 points last season. Terry Boss comes in, new head coach, former head coach at Oregon State. He was with Austin FC under Josh Wolf. Speedy Williams is the big name, but Firmino and Jafal, Burks was at San Antonio. Marcus Epps still in Borzak. Elliot Goldthorpe had huge numbers at Vancouver too, but also in college. Milo Yosef, we saw at Tulsa. Lucas Stauffer, that's really cool. He's a local kid. And look, Cameron Lancaster's there, right? They should be good. I don't know how good they're going to be.
Yeah, checkbook's been thrown around. Ton of talent. Bunch of different ideas from how they want to play from what I see from these guys. You know, the thing that I know about Terry Boss in his time at Oregon State was they had the ability to control. They could go vertical on you. They had good balance defensively. That seems to be what I'm getting out of this group of players that's being compiled by he and certainly Sam Dorr in the front office. I don't know how quickly that takes shape and if that's exactly what the identity is. That's probably the biggest thing for me is, what is the identity of this team? And I don't know what that is yet, Mike. They don't know what that is yet.
They don't know.
To be fair, right? Because you got to get on the field and you can do anything you want in preseason and then turn around and go, well, this isn't working for us, or this has changed within his game. I mentioned this 2 shows back. The most important thing for me within these guys is that the familiarity aspect. Oregon State, Tulsa, like they all have experience with each other at different stops, just not together in Lexington. I think that's a big asset for them.
Yeah. All right. Previewing the Western Conference here on USL All Access ahead of the 2025 season, which kicks off now in less than 2 weeks. Monterey Bay, next up, finished the 11th. Jordan Stewart named the head coach August 5th. They finished 1-7-4 over his 12 games. At that point, you could argue they were a pretty broken team, all things considered. Siaha, potential all-league goalkeeper selection, statistically is out. Green, Donor out of the back line. Enriquez, Lara, Walmer Martinez, Tristan Traeger. This is a total reboot. Dev, I'm just going to throw this at you and let you fly with it. Gordon, North Texas. Garcia, The Town. Larson, Finland. Lions, El Paso. Malongo, Chattanooga Red Wolves. Muir, Paul, Salt Lake City, and Galaxy 2. Soyberg, the Faroe Islands. Ivanovic, Australia. Fungok, Ebbsfleet, Ethan Bryant, Kansas City 2. Sam Gomez, St. Louis 2. Nobody came from a higher position on this table to help this team. Jordan Stewart's going to have to make it better than the sum of the parts.
The idea of what Monterey Bay want to be this year actually reminds me a little bit of some of the build at Phoenix Rising. Young, inexperienced, and just an absolute hunger for success. Because although I'm with you in terms of level of competition, all of those guys have had success so far.
Yes.
Just not at the level that we're talking about right now. And that's a scary thing. Again, we talked about identity for Lexington, same type of conversation for Monterey Bay. The other side of that is I've seen a lot of these guys play. And I know that these guys can play. Can they do it together? And also, what does the West look like this year? The West had a down year last year. We talked about that regularly, how deep the Eastern Conference was. If you go back to the West, it wasn't hard to see that those top 5 teams, overperforming, underperforming or not, under SAC over New Mexico United, it wasn't hard to see the gap between the quality that they brought to the field compared to everybody else. You and I, really up until the last 2 weeks, were still looking around going, okay, basically every single team is still in it. The Great Western Conference pillow fight, as you alluded to, and nobody really stepped up. I have a feeling this is going to be a turnaround for the Western Conference this year. So does that talent then continue to compete when the expectation and standards rise?
Yeah. Last one for this piece of the segment. New Mexico finished first, eliminated in the second round by the Lights. Eric Quill leaves for Dallas. Dennis Sanchez arrives after coming to an agreement with Las Vegas. Dev, they finished first with a +2 goal difference. Micheletto's out, Abdi Mohammed, Sergio Rivas, Nicky Hernandez, Nanan Husu goes to Charleston. Harry Swartz retires again. Good luck to him in the next step. Look, Mackenzie Gaines, we've seen at Nashville. Pondeca comes in from North Texas. Luis Fernando from Memphis, I think, is a good pickup. Zalalem comes in. He was at the Netherlands, Croatia the last couple of years, but time in MLS. Big shoes to fill.
Simple idea for me when it comes to New Mexico United, the players they brought in and the players that they lost. And they didn't lose a ton. Better quality on the ball, more aggressive moving forward. It's the ideas that Eric Quill started to put in place already. I see more aggression within these guys. You know, a Gideon Zalalem for sure, Luis Fernando, Mackenzie Gaines, guys that can fly when given the opportunity. It was something to me that I felt like New Mexico United got a little bit slow at times, going through the motions, allowing their opponent to regroup themselves. I see a lot more aggression within these guys that Dennis Sanchez has brought into 2025.
All right, Las Vegas sporting director Gianleonardo Neglia joins us on the other side of the break. His second year at the helm, had to find a new coach, rebuild the roster all over again. It's next year on USL All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody, to USL All Access on this beautiful Tuesday evening, February 25th. Where has the time gone? I'm not going to waste any more of it, to be fair, because we promised you a guest earlier in the show. Mike Watts is out walking the cat. Devon Kerr here, sporting director from Las Vegas Lights. I'm going to use the whole first name to start because my mother told me to be proper, and then we can pen each other names from there. Gianleonardo, Neglia, with Las Vegas Lights. They turned heads in 2024. if you were smart, you started paying attention early on from everything that this club was doing off the field that matriculated onto the field. Now they're putting together the full package. He's kind enough to join us today. Now I'm going to shorten it. Jean, how are we today, sir?
I'm good, Devin. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Been a fan for quite some time of the work that you guys have done. I saw the writing on the wall of what it could be. Certainly, you guys did all the hard work to make it what it was. You were officially appointed on February 2nd, 5 days after what was then head coach Dennis Sanchez's managerial position. You came over from the assistant sporting director at Venezia and City B in Italy. Read a bunch of articles about how you got here. I think the biggest thing is I want to take everybody back to the summer of 2007, which is basically where this story starts. And what I've gathered is you were in college. It was, during the middle of the year, and you were given an opportunity through a family friend to become a bat boy with the Toronto Blue Jays. And somehow that led you to the supporting director of Las Vegas Lights. Start me there and kind of give everybody an idea of what you're doing now, how that started all that time ago in Major League Baseball in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like forever ago. That's for sure. It was actually summer of 2008. And it was one of those things where I was in college and trying to figure out how to pay some tuition bills and what would be a pretty cool summer job. And it was through, as you said, it was a family friend that knew someone that had been working in the Blue Jays organization for a couple of years. And it was just a by chance conversation where he said, "Hey, I hear the Blue Jays are looking for a bat boy for the summer. Is that something that you could potentially be interested in?"
So the story, sorry, go ahead.
No, it was just one of those things where I thought to myself, I mean, I don't have anything else lined up for the summer. Doesn't seem like a bad summer job. And kind of jumped on it.
So you stay there for quite some time. Jose Bautista, your now owner, then becoming friends. You guys shared a lot of similar interests, certainly the affection for the beautiful game, Champions League. I read and listened to a bunch of things about how you guys bonded over that. You end up back home involved with, and you can kind of fill this part in, but involved with your hometown club, Pescara, before going to Venezia and then coming to the United States. The gap in between is what I'm kind of curious about. When you transition from the Toronto Blue Jays and head back home, which you also did some more schooling there, what did your sporting role look like in that time? Because I'm sure there was plenty of experience involved.
There was, and it was one of those things where, you never really plan on it lasting as long as it did. I mean, I was with the Blue Jays for 11 years. I never thought I would be there that long. I had always, my passion first and foremost is football. It's what I played. It's what I know. It's what I've always wanted to do. At that time in Toronto, football was not really a thing. I mean, Toronto FC had just come into play in 2007. MLS was very new there. So opportunities in football in the city of Toronto during that time were not great. So I played this thing out with the Blue Jays and then kind of just took it upon myself that I always knew I wanted to be in football and I needed to do something proactively to get in. And so I decided firstly to go back and get a master's in football business, which I thought would have been a nice bridge between the sporting side and the business side. And then it was then that when I went back to Italy, Pescara gave me the opportunity to start in scouting at the tail end of my master's program. So they gave me the opportunity to do scouting when I was in their youth sector. And that was right around COVID time, just as the world was coming to a stop. So that was an interesting process, but I did the scouting for their Settore Giovanile, their youth sector, before doing some work with Cesena as well, which have then eventually led me to Venezia, where I was hired to be a scout as well, and parlayed that into assistant sporting director, to which point Jose kind of, and throughout I should preface that throughout this whole process, Jose and I had always kind of kept in touch. We had spent almost every day for 10 years together. So we developed quite a relationship. And when I did eventually make that move to go back to Italy, there was pretty regular communication every couple months. How's it going? What have you been up to? And how's the job? How are you enjoying it? All that sort of thing. And so when the whole Las Vegas Lights opportunity presented itself, it was something that, as much as I was surprised by it, I wasn't completely blown out of left field, because I knew his passion for the game and his business acumen, and it was something that kind of made sense.
I read a couple of different quotes from you. Great article put out by Goal.com, Tom Hindle, the reporter. And one of the things that you referenced was, and I'm going to bring everybody full circle up to speed to get us to modern day, was you were probably due to age 4 or 5 years away from being the main guy in Italy at that point in time, which certainly didn't hurt the opportunity when put in front of you to come to Las Vegas Lights. I referenced earlier Dennis Sanchez, then head coach, now with New Mexico United, was here. You guys produced the second biggest point turnaround in USL Championship history. You finished top 4, you get a home playoff game. Scouting to me was always incredible, what it looked like in year 1. But we're in year 2 now. Dennis Sanchez departs the club, which, to clarify, as we reported 2 weeks ago, you all did in fact receive a fee for his departure to New Mexico United. Wanted to make sure all the fans know about that. He goes to New Mexico United. You bring in Antonio Nocerino from Miami FC. I think a lot of questions are, what is this going to look like year 2 under his style? What does the game model look like? And from a scouting standpoint, different views of the game, what does it look like in the offseason for your sophomore year of you guys putting this together?
It was a long offseason. There was a lot going on. But I feel very good right now with where we're at. Specifically with Antonio joining us as head coach. Antonio is someone that I think brings tremendous leadership to the club. His experience as a player and being able to relay experiences to our players is crucial. His tactics, the way he sees the game, the way he understands the game, philosophically, him and I are very much in line with how we want to play, with how we see the game. And you talked about scouting. He is very much a proponent of or a believer of what I look for in players and characteristics and what we'd like them to do in certain roles. So there's been tremendous alignment from that standpoint. The scouting process this year has been, it's been different. You touched on last year. Last year was very condensed. It was very rushed. A lot of scouting was done based on relationships, and truthfully, Devin, a lot of it kind of continued on into the season. We had, I wouldn't say our roster was finally complete until about August, because we made the 4 additions that we made in the summer.
Yep.
So whereas this year, as we sit here today on February 25th, we've already got 25 guys under contract. So we're in a significantly better position than we were last year. And I'm just really excited about that. I think having Antonio here is going to help us take that next step. I know I touched on his leadership, his tactics, his understanding of the game. I think with what I believe to be a pretty quality roster, I think he's going to have a lot of tools at his disposal to have a lot of success.
Certainly news that broke earlier today, a massive addition to your club on the attacking side of things. You guys go and get Johnny Rodriguez from the Oakland Roots. You spoke about the vision of what you and Antonio are trying to bring. Certainly that's ambition with a player like that. Great character off the field, had the opportunity to spend time with him. How did you guys reach this decision? And what are the aspirations for him and maybe the assets that he can provide for you going forward this season?
Yeah, absolutely thrilled to be able to get that one across the line and have Johnny join us. Johnny's a player that really from the time that I got to the USL last year, I sort of identified as a main target for us. His playing style, as you say, his character off the field, but just his bulldog mentality on the pitch is something that I noticed and admired from the beginning. Obviously, his goal scoring, he's put 24 goals in the last 2 seasons. That's certainly amongst the best in the league. He's a player that we kind of targeted really last year. I'd kind of reached out and wanted to inquire and see what the situation was and see if there was any potential possibilities or availability. And I'm sure if you asked the guys at Oakland, they'd say I was pretty persistent because he really just is someone that we absolutely wanted to get in to our environment. And to be able to, get that announced today and get that across the line, just absolutely stoked. I think Johnny is someone that, truthfully, I think could be amongst the league leaders in goals this year throughout the entire league. I mean, he's that good in my opinion. And to add him to a roster, which I think is pretty deep with talent. You look at some of the other additions we've made this winter with Dauda Peters coming in, Knight Pickering, plus guys returning like Valentin Noel, Edison Ascona, Christian Pinzone. I think all the ingredients are there for us to be pretty successful. And kind of adding Johnny as that cherry on the cake is pretty exciting for us.
I think one of the biggest things that I want to ask is, given the success that you guys were able to attain in year one, right? There's going to be a growing curve in so many different areas. What do you feel has been the biggest, I don't want to use the word issue, but maybe growing experience that you all have had to absorb to help push you to the next level? And off the field, what is that next level now that we've started to see success within the White Lines?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like there's been a lot of different things that have popped up over these 12 months. I think one of the things that we constantly try to address daily is to just be better and raise that bar, raise that level. I don't want to get too much into what the Las Vegas Lights were before last year. I wasn't here. You hear some things. I think for us, the biggest thing is just bringing in quality people, high level people, so that bar is constantly there. And I think last year was a good first step in that. And we experienced some success on the pitch. I think off the pitch, we are still very much growing in this market as well to what we want to be ultimately. But just that constant drive to be better. You talked about what our aspirations are and what we want this to sort of look like down the line. And I'm not going to hide from the fact that we want to be the premier destination in the USL. Like when people think of the cream of the crop in the USL, we want them to think of the Las Vegas Lights. And that's the reality. We don't shy away from that. We think we have the ability to do that. We have all the resources to do that. We have the ownership support. We're putting proper people in place in every facet of the organization. And I'm just really excited about continuing to build off of what was really page one last year of what I think is a 1,000-page book here.
Hopefully multi-volumes. A
that
couple
would be
that
nice.
we can put together.
That would be nice.
We'll go deep. We'll go to Lord of the Rings. There's plenty of storylines. There's success at the end of it. Why not?
There's no shortage of storylines.
For sure. And you guys certainly have a little bit of time before we actually get on the field. Your first game is going to be hosting the Eastern Conference team. Certainly a perennial powerhouse over there. Tampa Bay Rowdies, Saturday, March 8th. 7:30 p.m. Pacific time at 10:30 Eastern time. Appreciate you joining us, man. I love the opportunity to get to pick your guys' brains and get an idea of what it looks like in the engine room. Thank you so very much for your time. All the best this season.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Devin.
There goes Gianleonardo. Excuse me. That is why I speak for a living, supposedly. There goes sporting director Gianleonardo Neglia from Las Vegas Lights. Again, about 2.5 weeks until they kick off in the Western Conference of the USL Championship. Mike Watts will come back from Walking the Cat in a second. Don't go anywhere when we come back from break.
You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Back here on USL All Access, missing part of our interview with the Light Sporting Director. It's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page, also on the SiriusXM app. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr. Dev, second half of our conference preview in the West. We start with Oakland, eliminated in the first round by Colorado Springs on the road. Gavin Clinton was a 500 coach, 11-11 and 4 over 26 games. He is retained after an interim stint. Memo Diaz, Niall Logue, Paul Blanchette, notably. Trayvon Reed, Napol Masoso, Brian Tamakis out the door at the moment. Kendall McIntosh may well be their new number one in goal. Panos Armanakis, big name. Jurgen Dahm, big name. Tyler Gibson, big name. Abdi Mohammed, no stranger. Peter Wilson, huge scorer in the lower divisions in Norway. And let's not forget Otar Magnus Carlsen came through that same team. So maybe they found their next guy.
I remember Peter Wilson, not only the Otar Magnus Carlsen reference, but hot right now, 18 goals and 25 appearances last year with Jerv, bringing him in. You know, the European footballs have always done pretty well, to be fair, on their loans or direct stints with the Oakland Roots. I had a couple of conversations with those guys last year, and it really led me to believe that the belief was there for their manager that there needed to be a bit of a gut check and an attitude check at the door for some of these guys. And I feel like that's been heavily communicated to a lot that were retained in the offseason. Some of the other talent escorted out the door, so to say. Always with the idea, though, that Gavin Clinton's going to be the guy. I like him. I think he's got the right idea on how he wants to play. I like their game model. And I think they've done well with the personnel that they brought in. They've got to be more steady. The one thing that I will say about Oakland Roots, every single season that we've had them since they've come into the championship, is the level of inconsistency. They are one of the streakiest teams that I've ever seen.
Yep.
To the point of a top four finish and a bottom four finish within the same season. That's what we're talking about here. They've got to clean that up.
Yep. Orange County finished sixth, eliminated by the Switchbacks in the second round in extra time. They looked like a potential team of destiny under Danny Stone, took over August 29th. The team finished with 7 clean sheets in the last 10 games, 5-1-3 to close out. They lost to Las Vegas, then they called it the 8-game season and were nearly perfect. Grayson Duty comes in, former Vegas guy. Tristan Traeger, Liam McKinnon, who was the League One Player of the Year. Look, Owen Lamb, Marcus Knockham, Ryan Flood, who hilariously, I guess, from the outside looking in, Danny Stone is cast off twice from 2 different clubs. I
was wondering if you were going to say
of 12
a note to put on there, buddy.
It is. I mean, what the heck are the odds of that?
Ryan Flood, dude, catching strays, man.
And the tough part is I think he's a really good player. I genuinely enjoy
Ryan Flood serves
play.
a purpose within his group. Yes,
he does, but make no mistake, I think he's a good player, but I don't know that Danny Stone does.
No, I get it. I get the recruiting ideas that Danny Stone has brought in here, by the way. You know, Tristan Traeger, Liam McKinnon, Grayson Duty, young players, whether it's with a couple of years of professional experience or just coming out of college. Another interesting one is Usman Silla, that hunger that we reference for some of the guys at Monterey Bay. Usman Silla is about 13 months removed from being the best player in all of college.
Yep.
He's got one of the best left foots I've ever seen at the college level. He is a heck of a worker off the ball as an attacking player. Like, he will come down in, and most importantly, man, he is by far one of the best human beings I've ever met, who brings a locker room together like no other. A smile that's infectious. Danny saw all of those attributes, brought him in with the other guys, and I like the pickups that they've done with Orange County. Some of that organization we saw to finish the year that saw them so prolific on the defensive side, now looking for compliments going the other way.
Dev, if I call Phoenix Paz Reboot, is that okay?
He might not like it.
Okay. Pamadou Kaz, the new head coach there. Look, finished 8th. They always thought they were a little better than they ended up being. Rios Novo, goalkeeper, moves to Miami. Wyke, Torres, Rito, Varela, Zambrano, Fuenmayor, Asokar, Jose Hernandez, all on the way out. Carl Saint-E comes in. Sacco Okello. Harvey Neville comes in from Portland, intriguingly. Colin Smith, Tristan Henry, the goalkeeper, had a great run in the CPL. Is this a rebound year for Phoenix?
Rebound. You know, given their rebrand that came into the league in 2017, that officially cemented them as Phoenix Rising. We named them the Big Bad Wolf in 2019. They set all these records, and then the title from out of nowhere in terms of positional status, the 6th seed in 2023. The expectation is always to win a title. I don't know if it's a rebound year in the sense that they're going to be a title contender. I know it's going to be a rebound year in terms of the group.
Yeah.
Super young, a lot of inexperience, talent, yes. I know Apamoduka has been a part of coaching-wise at North Texas and at Charlotte. All of those teams like to be on the ball. They like to be really aggressive at times with their press. I would expect to see that here. I would also expect that with Bobby Dooley being there, Pamoduka and Dooley's understanding of the American soccer pyramid and all the talent that comes with it, and the players that they unloaded, they've got a ton of money to spend. So not that they're going to do that right away, Mike, but I wouldn't be shocked to see some names added to this group as it goes on. I'm not sure about the experience or age level, but to help kind of guide the ship as they navigate what I would interpret as troubled waters right now, given what we saw at the end of the 2024 season.
Yeah, and there aren't many teams that are – they're very amenable to making moves in the summer window as well. They're not done yet, I would think. Sacramento missed the number 2 seed by 3 points, got bounced by Las Vegas, changed their coach. Briggs out, Collins in. The team finished 1-6-2 their last 9. Look, Roro's back. Benitez has experience at Chivas, comes in. Lewis Jameson was with Neil Collins over in Scotland. Spalding, Warner, JJ comes in from Charlotte Independence. Total rebuild in the back line. Wheat, Donovan, Sanchez all out. Ricketts, Kieran Phillips, their leading scorer, goes as well. All I know is it's going to be different, and they will host a playoff game at the end of the year. I'm sure
all the players, 100%. Where in the table we'll see all the players brought in, though, are prototypical Neil Collins player. Dominic Fenner, the young man who came over from Germany, experience in that Regionalliga myself. He is a guy who can absolutely fly, comfortable with the ball at his feet. Same kind of conversation with Benitez from Chivas and Liga MX. I expect to see the Rowdies of sorts from what we saw a couple of years ago make its way to Sacramento. And that certainly doesn't come without quality on the ball, quality off the ball, and success in the table.
San Antonio finished 9th, missed the playoffs by 3 points. Big SpongeBob meme. Who are you people? Lambert, Burks, Solignac, Manley, Cisniega, all out. All the loanees are gone. Dev, San Antonio is just assuredly going to be different.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind, though, what that difference is going to be than what we saw the team that brought down the title in 2022. You saw glimpses of it in 2024. This is about being better on the ball. This is about being ball dominant. And every single one of the players brought in say that. Diego Pacheco, Madronda, Nicky, like all of these guys, retained or not, are about having the ball at their feet and making you uncomfortable in possession. Plain and simple for San Antonio FC.
Conversely, Tulsa has made a change in head coach, but it's staying within the family. Mario Sanchez moves up the ladder. Luke Spencer, the new head coach there, missed the playoffs by 4 points. Joseph, Pacheco, you just mentioned, going to San Antonio. Dyer, Ferry, Tete, Bourgeois. They moved Portillo and Goodrum in the last transfer window. Look, Lamar Batista has played in an MLS level. AB Sissoko's been on MLS money. Khalil El Medkar had a great year at Loudoun. Delence Pierre just won the championship. Lukic was at Red Wolves. And then kid from NYCFC, too, that bagged a brace against Hartford in the Open Cup in as well.
Also, by the way, you didn't mention the fact that they picked up Caleb Patterson-Sewell from Memphis.
Indeed, the
new front office
sporting director.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger ones for me. For people that don't know Caleb, quality goalkeeper in his time. Shout out, by the way, never walking alone, Caleb. That's a Liverpool guy right there.
My guy.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Caleb has taken the league by storm in the sense of his understanding of what type of player you need in order to have them help you find success. He and Ben Pierman did a great job together in Memphis. Still a stat that is astounding to me. I need to read it verbatim. 901 FC, prior to their departure in the offseason from the USL Championship, they were in a top 4 seed each of the past 3 seasons. They were the only club to do so in the last 5 years. You don't stumble into that. And while certainly Ben Pierman deserves all of the credit that he gets for that, a coach does not wander by himself without having the ability to have people around him in troubled times, in successful moments, to help take the next step, right?
Yep.
Caleb Patterson-Sewell is like a beacon. Ben's the captain of a ship. He's the guiding light out there that helps giving you frame of reference of where you're trying to get to go. That's got to be something here for Tulsa, for a group that's kind of always been that playoff fringe team. They brought in a lot of talent, but more so the identity of a squad that's bounced around the last couple of years.
All right, Dev, did you learn anything in this show?
Oof. I stood the whole time without my foot losing circulation.
I learned that they make hospital socks that don't cover your ankles. All right, for Devin, Emmett, Mike, happy Tuesday. Enjoy the week. Next week, we talk about actual honest-to-God games. This is USL All Access. So long, everybody.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.